What would you say if your very best friend came to you and they said, I have this dream that I could help so many people, that I could be on stages or on media interviews speaking about the things that matter to me and making sure that everyone in the world has access to the things that they need to make their lives just a little bit better? What would you say to them? Would you say, well, that's fine, but maybe get your kids out of the house first? Or would you say, oh, I don't know, can you do that? Are you really that type of person? Or would you say, oh, come on, get real? I don't think you would. So why do we say these things to ourselves? If you have got a book idea, you know it could help so many people, you're ready for some passive income to be coming in from those book sales, and you are ready to change your life with the wisdom you have learned from your stories, then it is time to start talking to yourself the way that you would talk to that trusted, closest friend. And I want to talk about how to do that in today's show. Stay tuned. One of the most amazing parts of my job is getting to talk to so many amazing people who are experts in their lived experiences. Sometimes they're experts in other kinds of fields of study. Sometimes they're just honestly experts in hard knocks. People who have survived incredible things and come out on the other side with wisdom that is so, so rare and so, so valuable. One of the worst parts of my job is realizing how many of those folks cannot see what I see when I talk to them through that camera lens on Zoom. They cannot see the expert that they are. They cannot see that they deserve to tell this story. And what so often happens is that from that place of not really feeling certain about who they are, they don't find the support they need to write their book. What does that look like? It means when they sit down to write, they feel totally overwhelmed. They feel lost. So, of course, as all of us do when we feel lost, they head over to Google. And while Google has many, many helpful things, I personally use Google every time I need to get anywhere, even in the town I live in. Google is not reliable support for writing your book. So what ends up happening is they feel totally overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. Well, what do they do next? So sometimes they'll talk to family and friends. Family and friends are a lot of times going to be really supportive. They'll even tell you kind of, oh yeah, you should write this story and this story, or I love when you talk about XYZ. But family and friends are also dealing with their own stuff, right? So that doesn't end up being a consistent path to go down for support either. Sometimes we even find all these free downloads, or maybe we even take a course, but in the end, we find that we just really don't have the consistent long-term guidance that we need to make progress. And inevitably, then, what happens? Well, when you don't have support, you just don't finish the project, right? That leads to all kinds of self-doubt, these spirals of worthiness, and all kinds of terrible self-talk, things you would never say to a friend, but for some reason we feel totally comfortable saying them to ourselves. Well, let's get a little bit deeper, because I'll tell you what the problem is not. The problem is not that you shouldn't be writing this book. The problem is not that you don't know what you're doing or you're incapable. The problem is not that you don't deserve it. The problem is our culture. And I want to talk today about a few things that I see that are driving people down the wrong road in trying to finish this memoir that frankly needs to be written, that people need to read. Okay, so when I talk about culture holding us up from moving forward on these book dreams, there are three things that I want to call out. You may have heard me talk about these before. They are the tried and true toxic pieces of our culture that truly derail so many important stories. The first of them is the group project mentality. No matter where you went to school, no matter how great your school was or how great your classmates were, I will bet that you went through school dreading group projects. Either you were the person that did all the work, you carried the entire load of the project, you came out with such an amazing product, and then everybody else took credit for it, you all got the same grade. Ugh, it's so annoying, right? Or maybe you were the person who really wasn't sure how to function effectively. Maybe you were a little bit shy, introverted. That's like me. So you maybe even withdrew from the group project. You knew you could make some amazing contributions, but the thought of putting yourself on the line like that was just way, way too much. Maybe you were in the middle. Wherever you stood, one thing I find over and over and over again is that same mentality that either everybody's going to let me down or I really don't feel comfortable asking for help, that is sabotaging not only your book writing, but every single thing in your life. Because when we cannot reach out for help, we can never accomplish anything bigger than what we're already doing. I want to say that again because it's really, really important. When we don't reach out for help, we will never, ever level up any part of our life. And certainly you're never going to finish writing a book on your own. No one ever has, truly. All of the authors that you admire, all of them had teams in one form or another. And this group project mentality is such a drag on getting that help. The second issue that I see from our culture is this strange image of the lone writer who shuts themselves away in a snowed-in cabin. And I always make the joke about The Shining here because truly something about our culture is telling us that we should be like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Now, obviously, we're not, axe-murdering horror story, but the part of this story that is so romantic and so romanticized is this idea that when we write, we're kind of this lone wolf shut away in a closet in a dark space. It's just us and a typewriter, probably a laptop, but I think in a lot of folks' minds, it's a typewriter, right? We're imagining how books used to be written in the 1800s, I think, maybe early 1900s, because we have been told that the way writing gets done is in isolation. Okay. Here is a curtain I want to pull back so you can see how the industry really approaches this. Way back before 2008, before the economic crash of 2008, book publishing used to look something like this. Authors would reach out. They would say they had an idea. This is called a book proposal. An editor at a press would be interested, whether that was through an agent or directly. And the editor at the press was paid to help that author finish the book and do it right. So that means not only kind of coaching, support, accountability, it also meant that they were in there doing the editing with the author, helping them to develop the idea. It sounds dreamy, right? Unfortunately, after the crash of 2008, publishing houses, just like so many other industries, really had to make sure that they were maximizing their margins. So that meant that editors had to take on way more books, and they didn't have time to do that kind of hands-on, one-on-one support that authors had gotten for centuries before then. Well, what does that mean for us? It means that we are left with this idea that it is just the author and the publisher, and there's no one else in between. That is not true, and I don't even think it was true back then, but it is certainly not true now. Books are never written in isolation. There is no lone wolf situation, and it is not going to work for you to do that. Hard truth, you are going to need some support. The third piece of our culture that I think leads us down the total wrong path in terms of writing our book is the idea that inspiration is going to hit us like a bolt of lightning. Now, this happens, I think, all the time in media, right? It's like you see that person, they're asleep and they open their eyes and they have the whole idea for their book. They race to the computer and they start typing. That is also not realistic. Truly, when you are writing a book that people want to read, there is a whole process. We call this the Memoir method, is the process that we use, but regardless of how you're writing, there is a whole process that's going to take you through developing a really strong idea, laying it out in a way that speaks to readers, and then getting into that larger idea and putting the smaller pieces together. It's a whole system. So while, yes, creativity comes and it feels great when it does, right? The best authors, the most efficient and effective and prolific writers do not wait for that inspiration. They don't need it. They have a system. And that is what is missing from this idea of inspiration striking us and we just type in our laptop. What I see all the time is that when we have internalized this idea that our creative lightning is going to strike, is that we just don't make any progress. We're waiting for the lightning, right? So you've maybe you have carved out, like, I've got 2 hours every Saturday morning and I'm going to make progress on my book. Well, what happens if you sit down at your computer during that 2-hour window on Saturday morning and you have no inspiration? Well, you're not going to move forward. If, on the other hand, you sit down for those 2 hours, you're not really feeling inspired, but you know exactly what you've got to do next, what I find 9 times out of 10 is the inspiration will come. We just need a container for it. But culture tells us it's just going to strike when it's ready, and that if it doesn't strike, it means we're not ready to be an author. It's not true. Don't believe it. It is just a cultural lie. So between those 3 pieces, we have a lot of bad information we've been working with, right? It is no wonder that we struggle to finish our book when we are under all of these impressions that really are not true and have never been true. And the one thing that all 3 of these ideas has in common, the group project idea, the idea of the lone wolf author, and the idea of inspiration striking out of nowhere, is that every single one of these ideas leads us to the conclusion that we don't need support. Every single one of them is telling us we can do it on our own if we only push hard enough and work hard enough and we get the determination. And what it does is it blames your lack of progress on you. You are not the problem. The problem is you don't have the support you need. And here's what I want to tell you in this episode. You deserve to have support. You deserve to invest your time and your energy and your money into this big dream you have. And doing that is not a detriment to the other things in your life that you want to put your time and energy into. It is not a detriment to your kids. In fact, think about how grateful your kids are going to be to have that book. I can tell you, we have written books for people who passed away before the book was published. We were able to move it forward with the help of their children, and their children were so grateful for those stories, truly. And think about it, you know this is true, because think about how you thought about your parents and your grandparents' stories when you were a kid versus how you think about them now. They're precious, right? If we don't get them, they're lost forever. So you deserve that, and your kids do not want you to put them first instead of you doing this dream. You deserve to spend the time, energy, money, even though you're working on your career. And truly, especially if you're in any kind of an entrepreneurial position, but anybody's career, you are going to come away from this experience with so much clarity on your mission and your purpose and your values that actually that investment is going to help you toward any career goal that you have. And you deserve to make this investment, even though you're going to be shifting some of your energy from other hobbies, perhaps from some rest that you need. Because if you have this idea, if it is nagging feeling in your brain, when you start getting it onto the page, you're going to experience so much healing. So all the reasons we tell ourselves that we don't deserve to invest in ourselves, that we don't deserve the support, that we don't deserve to really get answers to our questions about writing our book, all those things are lying to you. Those things are forgetting about the amazing benefits you're going to get besides the book when you invest in actually making progress, the confidence, the clarity, and the gift of your legacy for your children. Aren't those worth getting the support so that you can write the book you know you need to write? So what is the right way to get the support you need? The answer is always going to be industry support. There's lots of great stuff on Google. In fact, I've got stuff that I've written that you can find on Google. There's great stuff there. But that is not enough. What real industry support means is that you have professionals who know your specific book, your specific struggles, your specific difficulties, and can talk you through pushing through them and getting to where you want to go. You deserve that. Now, if you feel like working with Page and Podium Press is going to be the way to get that industry support, I want to invite you to check out the Memoir Method group program. You can go to pageandpodium.com/memoir-method to learn more about this program and to apply right now for our open enrollment for our next cohort. When you get in that program, you are going to be able to outline a story so it has such amazing impact. You're going to learn how to write these scenes that really draw your audience in with those vivid, visceral details. You are going to learn how to pitch agents, and you're going to learn, if you choose, how to self-publish a book that looks exactly like the traditionally published books you love and admire. You're going to get that through weekly accountability through email, weekly group check-ins with Emily and I. We have a combined experience of 32 years of publishing industry experience. You are going to get templates and video trainings and worksheets to really draw out all the detail and nuance of your story, and to make sure you never ever get stuck again waiting for the lightning to strike. If you think this program might be the right fit for you, but you just really want to make sure, I am offering for this week only, hop over to pageandpodium.com/TMM-talk. pageandpodium.com/TMM-talk. You can grab a quick conversation with me and I will help you decide whether this is the right program for you or whether there's a different way that you should go that's going to be more beneficial for you. I am so excited to hear about your book, and I'm so excited for you to step out of these lone wolf mindsets and finally make the progress I know you and your story deserve. I'm so excited to meet you. Happy writing.